Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Purpose Driven Life Sports, and I'm back here for another NBA news video. So, in today's news, now, before we get into the news, I just want to say tomorrow's the finals. For Game 1, NBA Finals. So, just tune in for that, because we got the Warriors and Raptors. Like, again, Toronto has home court advantage in this series. So, Games 1 and 2 are going to be in Toronto. So, Kevin Durant, once again, is not going to play for Game 1. DeMarcus Cousins is questionable for Game 1. If he did play, I expect to see him come off the bench, not be a starter. I think him just, holding down that second unit would be huge. And if they kept him coming out on the second unit in the whole series, that'd be huge, because I think if the second unit has a scoring option, that would be great for them. Just, keep flow if they have a lead, have somebody who they can dump it down to, a guy who's a good passer. So that'd be good for them. But on to the news. Now, Houston's general manager, Daryl Morey, he has officially been making calls, and he's actually listed everybody pretty much on the roster as available. Chris Paul, Clint Capella, PJ Tucker, those guys. But he did say the only way that James Harden will be available is if the offer is just... It has to be an out-of-this-world offer, which would probably be like multiple draft picks, multiple good players, and on good contracts. They don't want any bad contracts. Guys, a Chris Paul type of deal, they wouldn't want that. Now, they want a superstar, of course, but they don't want any really bad contracts or older type of players with those type of deals that could really hamper them down. So that's not what they're really looking for. I think they want to still be competitive, probably with some more younger type of players around James Harden. That's going to be hard to do, because Chris Paul last year signed a 4-year, $160 million deal, which means he's basically going to be making, it's an yearly average of $40 million, but he's making, I think he made $37 million this year. This year he's probably going to make about $38 million. So that wasn't a great deal to begin with. And the problem I had with that deal was you already knew Chris Paul was going to turn 34 this year, and you knew that he had an injury history once again this year. Even though he did play well towards the end of the season, he once again injured his hamstring. And it's always a string of injuries that really comes late in Chris Paul's career. Early in his career, he was a guy who was usually healthy. Then the middle to back end of his career, he's broke his hand 1 year, broke one finger in his other hand, hurt his hamstring again. He did this prior. He's hurt his hamstring before, so this is kind of a common occurrence. So that part. So I don't know how you really get rid of a Chris Paul type of contract unless you have to take on multiple bad contracts from other teams. So that's going to be tough, because if I'm another GM, then I don't really want Chris Paul. As good of a player as he is, his deal just makes him very unattractive. And that's one thing that Daryl Morey has to be aware of, is that because of his deal, you might not have any real buyers. Now, I heard, he might be able to go to the Lakers, but the Lakers aren't in a cap situation where they have a whole bunch of players who have big deals like that. So they'd have to package probably 4 or 5 players just to get a Chris Paul into their cap. And then because they want to get maybe another star besides LeBron, like I said, 4 to 5 players, because you got to take on that $37 million. And then you got to leave room for somebody else like an Anthony Davis. So you have to look out for that. So if I'm a GM of another team, you're going to have to give me something else with a Chris Paul, like maybe a PJ Tucker, because he actually he has a really favorable deal. I think he only makes $8 million this next coming up season, so that's favorable. You'd be taking on upwards of $45 million with those two, but it's, packaging something together, it's got to be worth it, even maybe first round picks with that. And the fact that Clint Capella is available is kind of surprising to me, because of the way that him and James Harden really work together. But we did see in the playoffs that you can actually neutralize Clint Capella if you're not allowing him to get lobs, and if you keep him off the glass, because he's a really good glass cleaner, and he really gets his points off of getting offensive rebounds and off of James Harden lobs. That's really it. So into that, I understand the logistics of it, because maybe you want to get a different type of center, a different type of young player at that position around James Harden who could maybe create his own shot in the post per se, or a guy who can still catch lobs, like I said, create his own shot in the post. Maybe not a great rebounder like Clint Capella, but a guy who's serviceable. And another thing is that not only does Clint Capella is he a great glass cleaner? But this guy, he's a great rim protector. So this is also surprising. And that also counts in PJ Tucker because to me, he's a glue guy that I think this team really needs. You don't want to lose a guy like him because he's such a great perimeter defender. He's even a good post defender, even though he's about, 6'5", 6'6". He's really small for a forward, especially a power forward, but he really does his job and he's very serviceable, especially as a corner shooter. So that's surprising. And for James Harden, I already said you would have to, it's got to be an out of this world offer. I'm talking about multiple round picks. You got to package in maybe a young player and I don't think you can trade for a James Harden. To me, it's like not possible because what they want, if I'm Houston, is I want a guy who can, or at least a few guys who can, get his same offensive production. And if you get a few guys like that, you're splitting it up into 3 parts with guys who can do maybe different things. Maybe you want a bunch of first-round draft picks along with that for James Harden. So Houston, to me, James Harden is not available. What they're looking to do is retool and kind of restructure because this whole Golden State, we're trying to build a team to beat Golden State by outshooting them. It's not going to work. And we've seen it the past 2 years where they've gotten close. Even though this year not as close, it still hasn't worked because you can't really – it's not about outshooting Golden State. It's about your defense and being a consistent offensive threat, shooting well from the field, out-rebounding them, really – if you have an inside presence, if you had an inside presence to go along with the James Harden, like let's say they were able to package a deal and get an Anthony Davis. Now, if you get rid of Chris Paul and Clint Capella for Anthony Davis, you keep a PJ Tucker. You still have, I think, a lot of good cap room where you could bring back a Kenneth Faried maybe. Maybe you could bring back an Nene also. But having Anthony Davis is great because not only is he a great he's not only a great inside presence, but he can shoot the 3. He's great in the pick and roll. He's an excellent defender. He's a better defender than Clint Capella is. To me, he's not as great of a rebounder, but he's that close to Clint Capella to where that could work. So but if I'm that, I also got to send over all those first round picks that they have, and if I'm Houston, I would do that. So Houston should actually look at multiple options. So because Anthony Davis wants out of New Orleans, excuse me. He wants to go to Los Angeles is what it's being said. But man, imagine Anthony Davis and James Harden. Now, would you need another star? Probably, because I don't think that's quite enough to beat a Golden State team, even though they could actually make a good crack at it because of Golden State probably next year is only going to have their 3 top stars, and they're probably going to rebuild their whole bench. So, going to be on the lookout for Golden State on that part. But I kind of like that idea of, you package a whole bunch. You package Clint Capella, you package Chris Paul to New Orleans, where Chris Paul was actually drafted. That wouldn't be a bad move, and then you draft Zion Williamson. That could be a really good 3 down in New Orleans. So New Orleans should look into that. Houston should definitely look into that. That's actually, I didn't even think of that before. Wow. I should probably be a GM. Didn't think about all that. But I think that's going to do it for the NBA news. That's really the big news today. Last night, though, I heard that Magic Johnson also said that he's denying rumors that he was an abusive president of basketball operations, which, it is what it is. I really don't care because all I know is that the dysfunction was there before you got there, really. Not as much there, but even when you were there, it was still dysfunctional. To a lesser point, because what I liked about what Magic Johnson did was not a lot of rumors per se. Okay, well, a lot of rumors actually did get out. The Paul George thing where he was tampering. You have you got the Anthony Davis thing that happened last year, which is it's ridiculous. So yes, news came out, but it wasn't like everything was leaking. Right now, there's leaks everywhere, so you could basically predict what the Lakers are going to do before they do it. So Lakers got a lot of issues to fix. Like, seriously. I mean, like, it's... everybody calls them the crown jewel, which to me they are because they're the most... Like, that team is historically, like, one of the best teams. It's a great franchise, but Jeannie Buss has got to step up and fix this herself. And if I'm Jeannie Buss, what I do is I got to clean out the whole front office. You got to get rid of all your friends. Got to get rid of Rob Pelinka. I think he's going to be... a draw for free agents, and GMs don't like him. agents don't like him around the league. You got to get rid of him. I think the Rambis, Kurt Rambis and Linda Rambis, they got to go. Because you have to get rid of all these distractions. If everybody keeps talking about how all these people are on the front office, they're in your ear, you're being manipulated. If I'm Jeanie Buss, that pisses me off. I'm like, damn it, I don't want to hear this crap anymore. You guys have to go. They have to clean out. They got to do it. They got to revamp their front office. Or she could probably just sell the team, which would be pretty stupid because that team makes billions of dollars, but I don't see another viable option. I don't see free agents really coming there except for maybe a Kemba Walker or Kyrie Irving. But that doesn't really help much. So, I mean, but it is what it is, like I said. I don't care too much for the Lakers because to me they're just it's a reality TV show over there. Too many leaks. If you have a whole bunch of this coming out in a report on ESPN, then Magic is hiding something. Well, not hiding something, but he's not telling the whole truth. And I think it's utterly disgusting. So, like I said, if I'm Jeanie Buss, I clean out the front office. I get rid of all my so-called friends, all these people that it can't be a family business for the Lakers. I know how much she wants to have all her friends there, but this can't be a family business. You're running an NBA team. It's a business, not a family business. This is not Johnson Family Company. This is a business. It's where you make money. So get the best people who are qualified, not your best friends. How about that? It's going to do it for this video in my NBA news. I want to thank you guys for listening to this video, watching this video. Once again, I want you guys to think about this. Think about James Harden with Anthony Davis. They could do a lot of damage. That would be a lethal combo. You got a guy in Anthony Davis who can get his points inside, outside, mid-range. Great free throw shooter, great defender. To me, that combo could do a lot more damage than him just throwing lobs to a Clint Capella, injured CP3. What are you taking away? You're taking away a lot of help from James Harden because of what Chris Paul can do in terms of handling the ball. But as we've seen, I think that would be so much better because James Harden could dump it down to somebody who can do their own thing. I think this iso ball you have to revamp it in a certain way where James Harden does a lot of things that he likes to do, but you got to add in a guy like Anthony Davis who can kind of take the load off and kind of, maybe give James Harden a break every once in a while. That would be great for them. So I'm pretty sure Eric Gordon is also available. I'll probably keep him and then, maybe start him, here and there for a few games and then not for some games because I think you kind of need that guy off the bench who can score and get their own shot. That'd be pretty good for the Rockets too because, of course, he's one of the 6 men of the year recently, so that part is good too. But that's going to do it for this video. Like I said, thank you guys for listening again, and I will see you guys in my next video.